Nearly 50 persons have been confirmed dead and 110 injured following floods over the town of Mai Mahiu in Kenya's northwestern Nakuru County. Now, the death toll was reported on Monday as floodwaters swept away houses, cars, and uprooted trees in the town. Police initially blamed the flooding on a burst dam. However, the Ministry of Water later said it was caused by a river tunnel under a railway embankment blocked with debris. Well, now joining me on the program is Enock Makanga, and who will, of course, be joining at some point in the show. But right now I have Chris Otieno, CEO and lead consultant, SATE East Africa Ltd, joining from Kenya. Thank you so much for joining in, Chris.
Thank you so much, Dabo.
All right, let me start with an open question. Hope you've not been adversely affected by the flood.
I have been affected in many ways in terms of inaccessibility. Main road to my place has been affected. The road has been destroyed by running water, flash and flood waters. It is bad in here, really bad. We are all being asked to stay in our houses.
I mean, was there some sort of prediction beforehand, some sort of warning, a forecast, maybe?
Yes, our meteorological department had warned us about this, and this is cyclic. It happens every 10 years. So yes, we had that information beforehand, but now here we are in the real situation.
Now, I mean, I also understand that quite a lot of people, including tourists, because we know that Kenya is a hotbed when it comes to tourism at the moment, are also affected. And the president has actually, sort of had a meeting on this particular matter. Has there been any fruitful, well, I call it fallout from that meeting that at the end of the day is impacting you directly?
There's been quite a number of distractions, and I know the president convened a cabinet meeting today, yesterday on 31st, and quite a number of actions were deliberated upon, but we are yet to feel where I am yet to feel the effect of that, but I know quite a number of my countrymen have felt this. For example, the government has identified certain areas where they've put up temporary shelter, and a number of persons from affected areas are being asked to voluntarily evacuate to these areas. But then also the Minister of Interior is being asked to enforce this. For those persons who are not willing to move and their lives is at risk, then they'll be forced to move to these areas. But as you can see, it is devastating here. Properties have been destroyed, lives have been lost, livelihoods have also been lost. It is a dire situation. And also we keep receiving other reports. And there's going to be persistent rainfall, torrent rainfall, and the duration will be longer than it is now.
I mean, before now, there's been some sort of global, well, I call it, not warning right now that the world should brace up for a major change in weather pattern. You're going to have heat waves like never before, and once the rain starts, you would experience torrential rains like never before. We saw, what happened in Dubai, even though technology played a pivotal role in that too. But we are beginning to see climate change. I mean, before it seemed like a narrative, but right now it's happening right before our eyes. Do you think Africa is fully awake to this reality?
I think that we as Africans, Africa as a whole continent, we are aware of climatic change. We have been told, or we are experts who can speak loudly and clearly about the effects of climatic change, but the actual experience, going to the actual experience, and how to handle these actual occurrences. For example, having early warning systems, having plans aforehand. When you look at Africa as a whole, strategy as Africans, politics in Africa, and the people of Africa, I can basically say that we are not prepared as much as we would expect to be able to respond adequately when it comes to these kinds of the effects of climatic change. Like you see what is happening in my country now. I could say, yes, we are responding, but the response is coming late, quite late. after a number of things have happened in terms of loss of lives, destruction of property, loss of livelihoods, and this sustaining over and over, and even the warnings that this is going to be dire. The situation is going to be dire as we go. If we ask ourselves, how prepared are we? I would say, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say almost 1, 2 there, with no substantial action being seen to what we are seeing: land submerging, infrastructure being destroyed, people losing their lives repeatedly, major highways being blocked for movement of vehicles, and this is going to affect a lot of our supply chain, food moving from one area to the other. And many of these, a lot of this will be felt as the time comes. Consider that we had this warning right before it happened. And this is where we are right now. Then we could say, measuring our ability or strategy, politics and people, we are inadequately prepared for this.
I mean, talking about being not adequately prepared for it, there's also the issue of do Africans really pay attention to forecasts?
I don't think we pay attention to focus. I don't think. I have not seen signs that would, for example, communicate to us effectively and prayerly that this is going to happen, and this information is actionable, requires action for us to take, and that action being driven. I would not say. Like, for example, we've now been told that the situation is going to be dire because these torrential rains are going to be persistent in terms of intensity and in terms of duration. What we have seen so far is very good language and very little action. We have those structures in our government that are really there to handle this kind of situation. For example, National Disaster Operations Center. But we have not seen these persons forward and really speak loudly and like competently that this is what we need to do. We have not seen disbursement of funds to be able to support supplies in temporary shelters in terms of food and non-food supplies. So we are saying that the more the situation is becoming dire, the more unprepared we're seeing ourselves, and the more losses in terms of life, in terms of property, in terms of livelihoods are going to be experienced. And we can only say we wait and see. But that wait and see is going to cost us a lot. Cost us a lot in terms of the 3 items that I have mentioned.
All right, let me just allow you, of course, a be for just some time, Chris. Let's invite Enock Makanga, is the National Chairman, Protective and Safety Association of Kenya, and also the Vice President, International Police Association in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for joining me, Enock.
Thank you so much.
All right, I mean, just to lay a foundation also, how dire is the situation in Kenya right now?
The situation is bad, extremely bad in terms of the government preparedness. I think this is the worst that we've ever had. We've lost very many lives, and chances of improvements cannot be seen. The question that we are now asking is, were we aware that things could be able to change? The answer is yes, we were aware that the weatherman had warned that things may be able to change, we'll be having a lot of rainfall. Just today, they've actually released another one that are saying that tomorrow and Friday will be the worst. So the problem is, I think we've not been looking at these issues from long-term perspective. I think the government has just been looking at these issues at short term. The rain will come and go, but now where we are right now, most rivers have actually burst their banks. The dams have burst their banks. I mean, things are not as we thought.
All right. I mean, staying on the issue of not being, adequately prepared, we know that the president actually did convene, an emergency meeting on this particular matter. There were warnings beforehand, even though we understand that initially the report was that a dam did, burst, even though it's been refuted to, what I call it, basically lifestyle, dirt and debris blocking the waterways and all of that. Now, my question to you is this. I mean, with all of this information, what do you think could have been done to have prevented this massive amount of loss?
I think the president is a leader and he has given people jobs. He's given we have the guy in charge of transport, the guy in charge of national disaster preparedness. There are people who've been given jobs, but I think the people are sleeping on their jobs. There's no way you can tell members of the public that you move to a higher ground when we have a flooding. And now these people are asking very simple questions. I mean, they're asking on media, we move to higher ground where? Where are we moving? And when we are moving, I'm leaving my belongings. I've got children. What will my children eat? So these are some of the questions that so many families are asking. Yes, I'll move for the sake of my family, but at the end of the day, what will my family eat? And now this now brings in the Red Cross guys who are just working around the clock. But now, this is an NGO that has been doing emergency preparedness all along, and they cannot be able now to manage the whole. In fact, they are overwhelmed. They are already overwhelmed. As we are speaking right now, you cannot know what comes on television in the next few minutes because things are bad in different areas. For example, you go to a place like Karisa in northeastern Kenya, it's completely impossible. You know, those guys depend on food from Nairobi. And as we speak right now, 7 days is impossible. So that means people there won't eat food. The level of them getting what to eat is not working out. Now you get to a place like now in Nairobi. Nairobi, the problem has been people being bribed and building houses. And these houses are not built in line with the ground infrastructure, the water movement, the sewage movement. And nature is very interesting. When you force things, then when such a thing comes out now, it becomes a problem. And that's what we are seeing in Nairobi, because water, there's a lot of water that wants to move, and they can't move simply because our drainage systems are not the best.
I mean,
and,
Enock, you just raised a pivotal issue right now. You were sort of attributing, to a very large extent, human factors in all of this. You said people bribed to build houses along waterways. Did I get you correctly?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, the people are built like now you look at the slums. Most of the people who have died people are living along the waterways, and we are saying who allowed somebody to build houses along those waterways, and these are people that are being carried by water at night. Now that tells you people are bribing their ways to be able to make such buildings. Now coming to the normal buildings that are collapsing. Somebody knows very well that before you build a house, you have to get approval, and if it's found out that you're building your house on a water bath, I mean you are stopped. But now what happens is people normally buy their way. They just buy their way, and because money killed Jesus, now people buy their way and they're able to build these things. And that's now why we're having a serious problem. Then on the roads. The main roads that are impassable, I think, is unfortunate, very unfortunate. I mean, you cannot have the main roads that do not have water drainage. Water needs to have a drainage where they can pass. Like you can see that picture there. The road is blocked, completely blocked. What is the problem is the water cannot find its way to where it's supposed to go. So, that's the gambling we are talking about. This is unacceptable, and the president must, I think, relieve of this guy who is in charge of transport. I think the guy doesn't know what he's doing. I think he needs to get the guys who are engineers to get on top of the game as this problem is sorted out.
All right. Let me go back to you, Chris. Recently, by recently, I mean in the last 5 years, the issue of climate reparation seems to have, come to the fore. We saw that happen in one of the recent COP meetings, where, of course, countries are beginning to question richer countries and demanding that they be held accountable for the global, climate change. Now, one of such individuals has to be the climate minister of Pakistan, who, at some point in an interview said that the rich countries should be made to pay reparations. There was an agreement actually on that that some amounts of monies will be paid particularly to Africa. But my question is this, is that enough? Would that even do anything significant in terms of ensuring that, you know, African countries in particular brace up, you know, for situations like this?
One thing that we must admit and one thing that we must accept is that Africa is the biggest resource in terms of natural resources. And the production method or the production path followed by the Western countries is that, for example, if you go to African countries, right in the middle of the African continent, there are a lot of minerals down there. But the environmental activities we carried out to be able to bring these ones out involve a lot of destruction of the environment and release of a lot of carbonated items or carbon gas into the atmosphere. Now, these will produce, you find that now, these big countries, despite that they are the ones who destroy these a lot, and their carbon credits paid to them, but not paid to the African countries. So just this statement by the Pakistani Minister of Environment and that docket is saying that it will be very hard to implement. We know just the other day that this climatic conference took place here in Kenya. Our able president, Dr. William Ruto, mentioned the same thing, that these countries need to pay carbon credits to Africa, or even pay higher carbon credits than Africa itself. But this will not happen. This will not happen at all. It's not easy. We know how things work in this world. We know how we're exploited by the Western countries. We know how the production system is. But we are also saying that we are seeing a lot of changes happening in West Africa. For example, the countries that we've had the coups here and there, we've seen the change that the pastors holding the highest office are bringing. And they are saying this is now time for Africa and things have to happen in the African way. So despite those things, there must be another drive from a different source that can push these Western countries to be able to relent or pay more carbon credits, to pay more with reference to how they're destroying the environment as compared to the African countries. Because much of the activities that destroys the African environment is coming from the same kind of persons. So we need different drives to really drive this kind of point down the entire globe and the entire structure in terms of these payments.
I would also like to know, Enock, your reaction on this particular issue of climate reparation.
I think, to me, where I sit is we just put our house in order. Africa needs to put its house in order. The question of being paid, whether it comes, well and good. If it does not come, there's need for African countries to go back on the drawing board and ensure that we are able to put our house in order in terms of the roads we are building, in terms of looking at now the new developments in climate change and what are we putting in place? Because now it appears we are being overtaken by events. If African countries can be able to evaluate that, then they are able to come up with the roads that will meet the test of time. I think this won't be a problem of the past. I know these guys can be able to pay us for that, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's a must, and I don't think it's something that we can be able to hang on. I think there comes a time when we must be serious and our leaders, African leaders, put to task the ministers in charge of various departments that work towards climate change and where we've been affected. Like now what's happening in Kenya here, it is now coming over very clear that there's a problem on water and drainage systems. There's a problem in road infrastructure. There's a problem in the trees that we've had. All those trees have been cut, and now that's you find now when the rains are coming, they are coming in big force, and we're being overtaken by events. So I'm sure if this is done, I think we'll be able to be talking something different.
All right, gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for being on the program. Enock Makanga, National Chairman, Protective and Safety Association of Kenya, and also the Vice President, International Police Association, and Chris Otieno, CEO and Lead Consultant, SATE East Africa Ltd. Once again, gentlemen, thank you for joining me on the program.
You're most welcome. We are available when you need us.
All right. Thank you once again. And please, more importantly, brace up and stay safe.